we go any further, just a brief safety message. The vessel you're on is actually licensed to carry 80 people. We do, of course, carry all the necessary equipment, and we are in constant communication with the shore, both by VHF radio and by telephone. I might add courtesy, I think, of the Heritage Lottery Fund.
But now it makes them, yeah.
Compromise, I suppose. And the warehouse owners wanted it built right up to the water's edge. The Canal company, well, they insisted on keeping access clear along the quayside. And it was said that after 20 years of wrangling and arguments, technology came to the rescue in the form of these cast iron columns. And as you can see, that enabled the warehouse owners to bring the upper storage right out to the water's edge, but still leaving, access clear along the quayside. Now this one here, this was Downing's Malt House. 100 years ago, that was the centre of the brewing industry. It was said on a daily basis, more than 100 tons of brewer's mash would be shoveled down those rusty chutes into narrowboats or longboats, and then taken up the River Severn up into the industrial Midlands, where it was actually used to produce beer. Pretty much really to provide the fuel which pretty much fueled the Industrial Revolution. This building here, this is a replica in a way of the old Foster Brothers Only Cake Mill that unfortunately burned down on that site about 2 years ago in an arson attack. And now they've taken to gathering on the front of the boat on the way back and shouting as loudly as they can. Although looking round, I don't think we've got any children that can shout loud on this boat anyway. Well, this is actually the Gloucester Sharpness Canal. This stretch of water was actually created, or in actual fact excavated, in order to give these sailing vessels many years ago a much easier and speedier access up to Gloucester. It would have been occupied or dominated by either timber yards or firms that really dealt with the handling or processing of timber. Brought up into Gloucester. I can believe that, going back a few years now, that area there used to be a large expanse of water. This was a timber pond, or timber float is its proper name. This was where the timber yards used to immerse their timber. They'd leave it in there, that immersed in the water, that prevented it drying out or cracking. Then when it was required, they'd form it up into a kind of raft and then pull it out through the entrance at either end of the quayside. Over here on the left hand side, you've got a fair selection really of different types of vessels. Don't ask what this one is, I really don't know. It's appeared in the last few weeks. I imagine it's some kind of sort of floating workshop, I would imagine, for somebody. And that vessel in the middle there, Highlander of Gloucester, you may correctly identify that as being a fishing boat. The usual thing about it is it's actually Gloucester's only registered fishing boat. Well, you may be aware of the fact that Gloucester's actually the UK's most inland port. So what on earth is it doing for a fishing boat? You're breathless. And in those days, if you caught a few more than you required, well, you just give them away to friends and neighbours. And if you were lucky enough to have an awful lot, well, in those days it was said if you were looking for Elvis yourself, You could walk around any of the side streets in Gloucester during the Elder season, and you'd inevitably find an open front door. Outside that door there would be a chair with an enamel basin on it, and that would signify that inside that house there were elders to say. In those days you'd usually carry a pint pot or a basin or a bowl. But to be honest, a lot of people don't realise that the bridge keeper isn't actually just responsible for opening the bridge. I mean, in a typical day, you've got to close it again, you've got to make his own tea, you've got to put the water pot plants.
The salt works.
Something you do pretty much on a daily basis. Try and explain it. What it actually is, it's this very canal. And I think you could literally say that Gloucester actually exports this canal to Bristol. But how that actually happens is in order to maintain the level or the depth or the amount of water in this canal, because when they use the locks at either end of the canal, that water is then lost out into either a river at this end or the estuary at that end. So in order to maintain the amount of water in the canal, they have to top it up regularly. This is done by pumping water in from the river. Built and launched in 1936. It was actually built for Mrs. Smith, who operated cruise lines on the River Thames in London. And it was here that Queen Boadicea was actually used to ferry passengers between Westminster and Greenwich. And to be honest, she did it pretty uneventfully for the first few years of her life. And then in 1939, when hostilities broke out between Germany and the UK, many vessels were moved out of the centre of places like London, of course, for fear of damage by air attack. And Queen Boadicea was actually moved further up the coast towards the port of Sheerness. Well, you may be aware of the fact that in May and June in 1940, in actual fact, 79 years ago yesterday, this vessel, Queen Boadicea, under the command of Major Alan Spong of the Royal Engineers, who actually requisitioned this vessel from the dock of Sheerness. He took this vessel aboard the Channel to the place of northern France called Dunkirk, where quite literally hundreds of thousands of men from the British Expeditionary Forces were trapped on the beaches. The large naval force sent to extract the men couldn't get close up to the men to pick them up. And a desperate call went out for any vessel capable of assisting to basically get across and help. Well, as I say, Queen Boadicea made her way across the Channel on Friday the 31st, 1940. As I say, yesterday. And today she would have actually been coming back, we believe, quite possibly. But during that time, this is a vessel actually helped to lift, it's hard to imagine, 338,026 men off the beaches to live and fight another day. Well, if you didn't already know, every vessel that attended Dunkirk was awarded a brass plaque. It simply states Dunkirk 1940. It is still worn today on the front of the bridge. But it is more than a plaque, it is actually the badge of a vessel that's entitled to call itself one of the Dunkirk little ships. As I say, 79 years ago this is a vessel that actually at Dunkirk or coming back. And it's hard to believe this old girl is 83 years old. Just coming back up the High Orchard Bridge. If we have anybody, any children aboard, anybody of course. There's some big kids aboard, you never know. Want to shout as loud as they can as we pass under the bridge, get off our bridge. Usually of course you just get a great echo, but if somebody's walking across the bridge, it's really funny. bit louder than that, you could have actually woke up the bridge keeper. Home restaurant. Did it for many years until she retired about 1970. She was towed over to Ireland. She remained there, moored up for many, many years, and she was purchased by a Belgian company. You had her towed up to here, and she now operates here as an holistic therapy centre. She actually weighs that vessel about 750 tons, which for a vessel that length is very heavy. But of course she is solidly built. She's built to something like 3/4 inch steel. And of course these vessels were anchored out in the most extreme, marine conditions around the coastline. But of course people call them light ships, but they're not actually. They're a floating lighthouse. They're not actually a ship. I mean, they can't, it doesn't have a propeller, it doesn't have a steering wheel. It can't be steered along anywhere. A lot of people say, what's that in front of the light? It looks like a bridge where somebody would stand there. But that's actually the forecourt. Main way you are preferably seated until you get securely tied up. As we actually go through the bridge hole here, I have to turn in a bit of a sharp angle to actually get ourselves on the quayside. And I'll be absolutely honest with you, I don't get it right every time. About a foot off the quayside there. I'm just going to leave that to Tony. I'm going to let him give you a demonstration of upper body power. Let him put us into the quayside.